The D-backs handled their business against the Chicago White Sox. It is officially time to say the offense is back.
You are Locked On Diamondbacks, your daily Arizona Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Who am I? I'm Millard Thomas, host of this wonderful podcast. I'm a multimedia journalist and I'm a graphic designer, so please go check out my website, millardthomas24.myportfolio.com. On there you can see all of my latest work. On today's episode, it is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. On today's Locked On Diamondbacks podcast, we'll talk about that Dbacks versus White Sox series. Is the offense officially back? And we'll, of course, do our panic meter as we do for every Monday podcast. Thank you for making Locked On Diamondbacks your first listen every day. I would not be able to do this podcast without you, my loyal listeners, sharing, subscribing, reviewing, doing all that so I could do this podcast for you. Thank you. It's free. It's available on all platforms. So please continue to tell your friends. And one of those platforms is YouTube. So please hit subscribe to Locked On Diamondbacks on YouTube. Our goal is to hit 2,000 subs by the All-Star break. So once again, please hit subscribe to Locked On Diamondbacks on YouTube. And for the YouTube audience, I actually have a question for you guys, because if you're watching the stream, I have on this Dodgers blue hat, but it's an AZ hat that actually was an Arizona Coyotes hat. So I want to know how you guys feel about me wearing a hat that is Dodgers blue, but says Arizona on it, because I want to wear it to a D-backs Dodgers game, but at the same time, I'm just going to be blending in with the rest of the Dodgers fans. But also, I feel like I could be a double agent, right? When the D-backs score, if I stand up with my Dodgers blue hat on, everyone's going to be like, what is this Dodgers fan doing cheering for a D-backs home run? Then they're going to take a closer look and be like, wait, is that an AZ on his hat? Just want to get your guys' thoughts on being a double agent with a Dodgers blue Arizona hat. But now let's get into the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. All right, so let's talk about that D-backs versus White Sox series, because it was a weird series. It was bookended by two fantastic games by the D-backs offense. Then that middle game, game number two, some bad pitching, some lack of offensive execution, and some weird decisions by Torey Lovullo, because it's Torey's gonna Torey as always. But the D-backs, for the most part, they handled their business against the Chicago White Sox. White Sox, arguably the worst team in Major League Baseball. I mean, by the record, they're the worst team in Major League Baseball. They're actually one of the worst teams of like the 21st century. At this point in the season, to have the record that they have, the White Sox are one of the most pitiful organizations we've seen in recent memory. Minus 155 run differential. The White Sox are cooked, and they are looking at that number one pick. And for the D-backs, who have been desperately trying to get back one of those wild card spots, maintain pace in the wild card race, we knew they were going to have to handle business against the White Sox. We were praying for a sweep. We were like, okay, a sweep here is kind of what you should do if you're that team against, one of the worst teams in Major League Baseball. D-backs didn't complete the sweep. And it was kind of the perfect scenario where it's like, okay, D-backs 1-1 against the White Sox. You go into that finale. It's like, again, another test of the D-backs character. Are they going to fold over right when we start believing in them again? The offense starts looking good. They're starting to string together some wins. Are they going to roll over against the worst team in Major League Baseball in the finale with their highest paid player on the mound? No, that's not what they did. Jordan Montgomery finally had himself. I mean, he was good in his most recent start. He had another good start for the D-backs. 5 innings, no earned runs, 7 strikeouts against the worst team in Major League Baseball. Good to see Jordan Montgomery deliver a big win and keep the D-backs in the race in the wild card, because it would have been so disappointing if the D-backs lose Sunday with Monty on the mound against the worst team in the sport. That would have been a devastating loss. But instead, Monty delivers a big win, and the D-backs offense continues to dominate. They had themselves a pretty good series. I know in game number 2, they only scored 2 runs, but at least in game two, they still had 10 hits. And that's something that they did every game this series. Game number one, 10 hits, 7 runs. Game number two, 10 hits, but only 2 runs. I think the reason the offense wasn't as good in game number two, look at strikeouts, 9 strikeouts to 0 walks. D-backs weren't doing enough of the little stuff. 3 for 10 runners scoring position isn't awful, but you have to draw a few more walks and you can't strike out 9 times. Then Sunday's game, 9 hits, 8 walks to 6 strikeouts, and they scored 12 runs. I say all the time, if the D-backs score at least 9 runs and their strikeouts is not very high, like if they hit around 8 or more hits, strikeouts are like 6 or less, and then they get like 3 to 4 or more walks in a ball game. I think that's the kind of perfect recipe for the D-backs' success offensively, and that's what they were able to do this series. Christian Walker had himself a fantastic Sunday. Jock Peterson had a very good series. I mean, up and down the lineup, different guys contributed on different days to really make the offense work. And for the most part, you got contributions from everyone in your D-backs lineup, which has been a common trend for the month of May. Really, everyone has been producing at least an improved level from where it was the last couple months. So really like to see the D-backs offense starting to turn a corner. And also, the starting pitching in this series was pretty good. It wasn't just the offense. The starting pitching was pretty good as well. Of course, Monty on Sunday delivered a big win. But in game number one, you had Ryan Nelson, someone who's always on the bubble for the roster, right? One week we like Ryan Nelson, one week we hate Ryan Nelson and think he's one of the worst pitchers in Major League Baseball. His ERA still 5.49 after Friday's start, but 6 innings, 6 hits, 1 earned run, 1 walk, 8 Ks for Ryan Nelson on Friday. You'll definitely take that performance. Game number two, very weird for the D-backs. It would have been nice to see the D-backs get the sweep. They weren't able to do that because of game number two, where they just had so many weird things going on. One, the umpire was terrible in game two. I think we can all agree on that. There's some of those Corbin Carroll at bats and the Lord Gurriel's at bats where he just calling strikes that are way too low in the zone, or for Corbin Carroll, he's calling strikes at like Corbin Carroll's neck. It's like, how is he supposed to swing at that? Didn't love the umpire. I still don't understand the balk, the intentional balk by Torlavello. I get it. He was like Martin Maldonado could see the pitches of Vieira coming, and he was, reiterating that to his team. Listen, at the end of the day, I want a man on second instead of a man on third. Even if he knew exactly what pitch is coming, I would much rather the guy try to get that single with a man on second instead of man on third. It's not like Martin Maldonado is Corbin Carroll out there in terms of speed. So I just don't understand intentionally moving a guy to third in easier scoring position. Even if he can see the glove of the relief pitcher, I would much rather have him on second and further away from home plate. So just don't understand that decision by Torey Lavello. But again, sometimes Torey is going to Torey. Don't understand why Eugenio Suarez played so much in this series, despite actually getting on base a bunch in this series and hitting home run. I thought we were going to have a changing of guard over at third base. That didn't really happen this series, but maybe in the next series, we won't see as much Eugenio Suarez. Looks like Corbin Carroll avoided major disaster Sunday with injury. It looks like he's going to get an MRI, but I think we're all feeling very good about him so far in terms of his health moving forward. It sounds like he avoided anything major. Geraldo Perdomo has come back and just been a godsend for the bottom of the lineup for the D-backs. Domo, a hit in every game this series. His slash line now 310, 383, 333. I wasn't huge on the Domo return in terms of him changing life for the D-backs, but I currently feel like I'm wrong on that take. Domo has been so important for the D-backs in that number 9 hole. He's consistently getting good plate appearances, consistently getting on base and scoring runs and doing what Domo does. He has come back off the injured list and he's come off the injured list and has been an instant impact contributor for the D-backs. So I'll take the L right now on my Geraldo Perdomo take. And then finally, is the D-backs offense officially back? That's what I want to dive into and discuss in segment number 2. And hey, if you think the D-backs are going to win their next series, then why not place a little wager down on FanDuel Sportsbook? Because summertime means baseball, the NBA Finals, and more. You can bet it all on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 you can use to bet on everything from finals MVP to who's going to hit one out of the ballpark. My favorite thing to do on FanDuel is the same game parlay. I take the D-backs money line. Yes, because the D-backs are playing a lot better. I take Corbin Carroll over on stolen bases, and then I take the over on Quetzal Marte total bases. When that three-legger hits, it brings a big smile to my face. If you want a big smile on your face, visit fanduel.com/lockedon and add a big win to your summer bucket list. FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. And one other thing that brings a big smile to my face when I make a little money on this app is the #1 fantasy sports app called Prize Picks, because Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 5 million members. It is the most fun, exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. Just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats for a shot up to win 100 times your cash. With Prize Picks, you can turn $10 into 1,000 in a single game watching your favorite sports this summer. You can make a Prize Picks lineup in as little as 60 seconds. You just need to pick two or more. You just need to pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stats projections, and you're locked in. There's always action on Prize Picks, and this is the perfect time to try out something new as baseball is winding down. Make sure to try out esports this month, because for every Wednesday and Saturday in June, if your lineup doesn't win, you'll get your entry fee back. Choose from Counter-Strike 2, Call of Duty, League of Legends, and more. Right now, download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, download the app, use code LOCKEDONMLB. Prize Picks, pick more, pick less. It's that easy. All right, all right, all right. Let's get back into the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast, and let's discuss if the D-backs offense is officially back, because during the month of June, this D-backs offense has been cooking. They have won 10 of their last 15 games, which doesn't seem like that's not like a crazy record over a 15 game span, but definitely shows you the D-backs are trending in the right direction. And I feel like at their last few wins as well, they are putting up big run totals, because of course in today's game they scored 12 runs in their most recent game against the Chicago White Sox. Their win on Friday, they scored 7 runs. Their finale win against the Angels, 11 runs. The game one against the Angels, 9 runs. Then the finale against the Padres, 9 runs. So that's the last 5 wins for the D-backs: 12, 7, 11, 9, and 9. The D-backs are putting up some pretty big offensive numbers. And right now, this team offensively is playing as a unit, and they look like one of the best offenses in the National League. And that sounds crazy to say because of the lulls and the valleys that we've seen from this team, right? We knew how bad Lourdes Gurriel, the Eugenio's, and the Corbin Carrolls were at the start of the season, and the Gabriel Morenos. Like, so many guys in this D-backs lineup have not produced this year. We've seen guys like Christian Walker going couple week slumps, and right, Ketel Marte, when he gets off the hitting streak, goes in a little slump. Tucker Barnhart, he never provides any offense when he's in the lineup. The fact that Kevin Newman at times has been like the 3rd best D-backs player tells you how bad the offense has been this year, and has never really gone going outside of maybe the first couple weeks of the season. We have not really seen the D-backs offense that we expected to see entering this year. Too many pivotal guys were just really struggling in the lineup, having huge slumps. We didn't know what was going on with the Corbin Carrolls. He was smashing too many balls into the ground, too many weak pop-ups, striking out. Lourdes Gurriel, a ton of grounding into double plays. Eugenio Suarez striking out a ton as always. No home runs. And outside of Eugenio Suarez, a lot of guys have started to turn their season around, and their bats are picking up. And it is greatly impacting the D-backs team offense, because if you want to hear some crazy stats, these are stats entering the finale against the Chicago White Sox. So this is not even counting the 12-run outburst that the D-backs had on Sunday. That tells you how crazy these stats are going to be after I tell you. The D-backs entering the finale against the White Sox for the month of June. This is only for June. D-backs are #1 in runs scored in the National League in the month of June. Entering the finale, they were +9 over the next team. Now they just scored a dozen runs today. The D-backs at this point, June 16th, a halfway point of the month, the D-backs are by far the best offense this month. You look at WRC plus, D-backs are number one over the LA Dodgers. Entering the finale, 137 WRC plus, Dodgers 132. You look at offensive WAR, D-backs crushing the Dodgers 1-2. You look at just WAR overall, D-backs number one in that category as well. You look at slugging percentage, D-backs number one in that category. You look at average, D-backs number one in that category. This D-backs offense in the month of June has been on fire. Average, power, just doing it all offensively. It has been a really impressive job by this D-backs offense to turn it around and all of a sudden not just show signs of life, but look like the best offense in the National League for a 2-week period now, which is no small sample size. For a half month now, the D-backs have looked like the best offense in the National League. And it's not a total surprise because they have the pieces to be the best offense in the National League. And right now, you look at some of the numbers for the D-backs players in the month of June. WRC plus, right? It is probably the number one go-to stat for trying to describe how good an offensive season a player is having. 100 is the average. Randall Grichuk, 276 WRC plus this month. Ketel Marte, 219. Kevin Newman, 156. Doma, 146. Jake McCarthy, 145. Gurriel, 135. Blaze, 122. Carroll, 122. Moreno, 107. Like, Christian Walker and Jock Peterson are below a 100 WRC plus for the month of June. So your two best power hitters are technically having slow months, but the other 10 guys in your lineup are producing at a above average to an MVP superstar level. And that's 10 guys, not naming Jock or Christian Walker. That's why this offense has been so good this month, because you're getting contributions from 10 to 12 dudes in your lineup. Corbin Carroll has the 9th highest average on the team in the month of June, and entering the finale, his average was 283 for the month of June. That was the 9th highest average on this team. A guy like Randall Grichuk, not a large sample size, but he was batting 455 entering the finale. Kevin Newman is batting 400 entering the finale. Domo 400. Ketel Marte 362. Like, the numbers that the players are putting up this month are huge. They're fantastic, and it makes me question, is this D-backs offense officially back? The only thing that gives me hesitation is the competition that the D-backs have been facing recently in the month of June, because like we've been discussing, the schedule has opened up perfectly for the D-backs this month, and you can only play who you can play. So I think a big reason why the D-backs offense has gone better this month is some of the competition. They've played the Mets to start the month. They played the Angels. They played the Chicago White Sox. Yes, they had the Padres mix in between that. The Padres also don't have a great rotation right now. They have some guys injured in their rotation. So with the Nationals up next and you end the month with the A's, like, I think part of the reason why this D-backs offense is getting better is because guys are starting to come out their slumps, but also the schedule broke at the perfect time in the month of June. And this was a nice cushion in the schedule to get these D-backs hitters some confidence going against some of these lesser staffs in Major League Baseball. So love to see that this D-backs offense is finally starting to come around. Carroll's showing life. Gurriel, Moreno, all the guys who have struggled all season, except for Eugenio Suarez, are starting to show signs of life. This D-backs offense is once again getting kind of dangerous. The answer backs are coming back, and I think the rest of the National League has to watch out if that's true. And because of this D-backs recent offensive success, we need to do a panic meter in segment number 3 to see how we're feeling at the D-backs at this point of the season. Get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trades, supplyhouse.com. Supplyhouse.com is the reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC and electrical products online. Their easy to use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Get expert support and industry leading service from the friendliest folks in the business and talk to a real person every time. Pros in the skilled trades can get a competitive edge by joining supplyhouses.com's free Trademaster program. Every Trademaster gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at supplyhouse.com/TM and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at supplyhouse.com. All right. Let's get back into the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast. If you like the show, please follow me on Twitter at CareerThomas24 for the personal account, Millard.Thomas123 for the personal Instagram, or look up Locked on Diamondbacks about Twitter and Instagram for the podcast handle. But now let's do our little panic meter as we like to do for every Monday podcast as we dive into how we're feeling about the D-backs at this point in the season. It is June 16th. They just won a series against the Chicago White Sox. They have their next series starting Tuesday against the Washington Nationals. The D-backs, at the time of me recording this podcast, half game back of the wild card, right behind the Nationals, who they get to play next. I believe every time we've done this segment, this exercise, I've had the last 4 weeks, I think we've done it. I've had the D-backs panic meter at a 6. And for the first time during this segment, I'm going to change the number with the D-backs being 35-37. Still a couple games below 500, but with the series coming up against the Washington Nationals, I'm going to put the panic meter at a 5, and I got a few reasons for it. Number one, why the meter's at a 5? The offense is on fire. Like I just went through the numbers, this is right now the best offense in the National League for the month of June. And because of that, I just have more inherent trust in this team overall when they're hitting the baseball. Yes, I still have concerns with the pitching, but when you're telling me 9 to 12 guys in your lineup are just playing way better high level baseball, like once again, you just go by WRC plus. There are 10 guys right now with over 100 WRC plus, and that's not including Christian Walker and Jock Peterson, who had themselves good series against the Chicago White Sox. Christian Walker has been hitting a ton of home runs recently, and Jock Peterson, we know as the summer starts to heat up, he's probably going to be tapping into that power department as well. So with so many guys in this D-backs lineup, finally starting to play better, we're seeing some more of that chaos get used as well, some more speed. Now that Domo's back, with McCarthy playing more, with Corbin Carroll out there, with Blaze Alexander. Once you get Alec Thomas back, this D-backs offense from a chaos standpoint is only going to turn up the heat some more. So one of the reasons why I lowered the panic meter number is because of my increased trust and confidence in the lineup. Second reason is I think we know who the go-to guys are in the bullpen right now. So many times this season, I'm like, the bullpen is awful. Throw out every pitcher in the bullpen. And I still think the bullpen needs some major improvements. There's still 2 or 3 guys that could easily be replaced in the pen. But for right now, Paul Sewald, elite closer, shutdown guy. Justin Martinez, elite setup man, along with Ryan Thompson. That is your go-to trio. Kevin Ginkel's probably the 4th man up. And then, depending on how they're feeling, if they're pitching well, your 2 wild cards are Bryce Jarvis as your long reliever and Joe Mansply as your lefty specialist. But you have 3 guys who you feel like are superstars, 1 guy who you feel like is pretty good and can pitch like a star when he's right, and then 2 guys who are wild cards who, at times, they can be really effective and helpful, and at times they can be not the best versions of themselves. But you at least have 5 or 6 guys that you like and feel good about in your bullpen. I don't think we were saying that 3 weeks, 4 weeks ago. Definitely weren't saying that pre-Sewald when he was hurt. We were scrambling for pieces, scrambling for relievers. Kevin Ginkel was terrible as a closer. We had really, it just was chaos in the bullpen until Paul Sewald came back. So super glad to see he's contributing at a high level. Like, Torey Lavelle had to put him in a couple times recently in the past week just to get him some work because, like I said, the D-backs last 5 wins have been scoring on average like 8.5 runs a game. Like you haven't really needed Paul Sewald the last week plus. And so Torey Lavello just getting him some extra work to make sure Paul Sewald's fresh because he's been so fantastic this year. And we want to make sure he never gains any rust as we, push for a playoff spot. The third reason why I think the meter should be lowered is because the schedule the rest of the month is looking fine. You go against the Washington Nationals next. They are directly ahead of you in the wild card race. Another good opportunity to beat the Nationals, move up in the wild card race, and now own the tiebreaker over the Nationals. Also, love how every game is in the middle of the afternoon. So I will be done with the podcast early all week. Yes, the Phillies series will be very tough on the road in Philadelphia. That will be a rambunctious crowd. I'm sure all of them will be there in full force in their Philadelphia red, booing the D-backs because, of course, we sent their sorry butts home in the NLCS. 2 games to beat the D-backs on your home turf, and you can't get it done, Philly fans. I'm sure they got beef with the D-backs right now, and so that is going to be a tough series, but 3 of the next 4 series, Nationals, Twins, A's. I like the D-backs chances the rest of the month to at least win 3 of the next 4 series. And if they could do that, that will set them up perfectly in the wild card race. Then finally, this team, in theory, should only get healthier moving forward. Zach Gallen should be coming back soon. Kelly and Erod should be back around the All-Star break. I know that's still a few weeks away, but Alec Thomas might not be too far back, might not be too far away from coming back. Like, I just think this team overall trending in the right direction, positive vibes, team is getting healthier, and I just like the makeup of this team. The rotation is the biggest issue for me right now. If Monty or Fott don't have good starts, I just don't really have confidence in anyone else in the rotation, but Ryan Nelson stepped up most recently. We're hoping Slade Sakoni can step up on Tuesday. We'll see if he could do that, but D-backs finally starting to play some good baseball right now. Offense is turning a corner, might officially be back. The bullpen, we know who we can trust in the pen. The starters step up at times, at least the Fots do, and Monty's at times. D-backs starting to play better baseball, and we need to see them keep it going against the Washington Nationals. Now, that's it for this edition of the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. Come back tomorrow for more Diamondbacks news coverage and insight. And as always, stay safe, stay healthy. Doses.